Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is January the 21st, 2022. We are super spreading Bitcoin 2022 here. We are pumped for that conference. That's part of the name of the show also. Strong hand, long-term thinking. Bitcoin is next Bitcoin. One day closer to an all-time high. Best freaking guest in the space. I'm offended by selling on a day like this. God, but people are selling for some. I don't know what's going on here. All right. We got you quite a group here today. Two new guys, but they are all linked to below. First of all, check out all of their links. You all know Alessandro from Lenin and from Venezuela originally. Oh, he's going to give us a south of the border perspective. But so will Marcel. He's in the house. He's making his debut. Evan is in the house. I can't pronounce his last name. He will pronounce it, and he will talk about Zeus and the Lightning Network. Yeah, you know I'm not an expert on the freaking Lightning Network here, but so I bring in a guy who's got a freaking project. He's got positive things to say. We've got guys that are doing. There is so much positive in this space. Google's doing some positive in this space, but we gotta cover the negative stuff first because most people are not rational most of the time. And they're worried about all sorts of macroeconomic conditions and the Fed and the this and the that and the Russians. Oh, Russia. Pound that like button if you don't give a dung about Vladimir Putin's irrationality. But before we get into that weird news, we're going to have to give a promo for our buddies in Miami. Miami is a beautiful city, and they're putting on a beautiful event. Bitcoin magazine is Bitcoin 2022 is the largest Bitcoin event in the world that takes place April 6th to 9th in Miami Beach, Florida. All 4 days will be jam-packed with exclusive content, exciting announcements, and incredible lineup of Bitcoin speakers, artists, and leaders. And Adam Meister will be in the crowd going crazy. Day one is industry day for enterprising Bitcoiners who are looking to build a business or career within the ecosystem. Days 2 and 3 are general conference days featuring speakers like El Salvador president, I can't pronounce his name, who has promised a big surprise. Ooh, that sounds pretty wild. And that dude is pretty wild. And Alessandra's actually going to talk about him a little later. As well as CEOs like Michael Saylor, who all you guys put on pedestals and worship, Elizabeth Stark, Jack Mallers, Adam Back, and hundreds more. The conference caps off the 4th day with the world's first and largest Bitcoin music festival, Sound Money Fest, headlined by rapper and fellow Bitcoiner Logic and Steve Akoy, CL, Run the Jewels. I don't even know who these people are. Any of these people are. Last year's conference sold out, and this year's is on pace to be 3 times larger. And that's what I care about. 30,000 people might be there. So make sure you grab your tickets before it's too late. Visit b.tc/conference to learn more. Pay in Bitcoin. No, don't pay in Bitcoin, but they want you to pay in Bitcoin and save. And use promo code Adam10, which is linked to below. I also linked to their thing below. That was the new script they gave me. I had no idea it was going to be that long, but I put my little twist on it, and we'll talk about if everyone's going to be there later. But let's just start with Marcel. What is up with these macro freaks out there? With this, Bitcoin is right now sort of correlated with the stock market and all that. It is interesting that the altcoins that people said had decoupled from Bitcoin haven't decoupled from Bitcoin. The people who say, oh, who cares what Bitcoin does? My altcoin will become number one. No, Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. They all still freaking follow Bitcoin. Take it away, Marcel. What's going on?
Okay, Adam. So first of all, thanks for welcoming me here. For those who don't know, I am Marcel Pitchman from Brazil. I'm author at Cointelegraph. So I write a lot about Bitcoin and Ethereum options and futures and derivatives. But as Adam asked me to give you guys a more broader view. So first things first. Let's understand what's been happening since this whole pandemic stuff and governments printing money like hell. So how much has been printed over the last 18 months? So based base money. So governments printed $12 trillion. So let's stop for a minute here and think about it. $12 trillion. There's a lot of people saying, oh, this money was meant for vaccines and whatever. Do you know how much revenues those Pfizer and Moderna companies got over this last 18 months? I'm not saying about income, I'm saying revenue. Okay. So it's 0.5 trillion went to the pharma companies. So it's not about giving money to a specific sector. It's about the cantillon effect. And what is the cantillon effect? If you're lazy and you can't go to Wikipedia to search, I'll let it out for you. It's when you're friends of central bank, or when you work for government, or when you're a bank director, you benefit directly from those dollars printed. So the regular population, you, me, workers, small business owners, we do not benefit from that. So who benefits from that? So friends of the government, big corporations, Jeff Bezos or whatever, those billionaires benefit. The others, like us, we got diluted. So if there's more money in circulation and you own the same number of assets, you got diluted, because those guys, they can access cheap financing and they can buy stocks. They can buy companies, they can buy land, they can buy Bitcoin, they can buy whatever they do, because some stupid people are still selling land and Bitcoin for dollars, which does not make sense. It shouldn't be traded for dollars. Maybe for gold, but not for dollars. So what's happening here is that we created some kind of asset bubble, not just with Bitcoin, the bubble of everything, okay? And by mid-November, just as the friggin' physical ETF was rejected, I'm not talking about the CME ETF, I'm talking about the Van Eck physical ETF. It got rejected on November 12th, just as the governments, the Federal Reserve, were saying, okay, we're going to slow down on the printing, we're going to raise interest rates, etc. So putting fear on the markets. So what happens? Risky markets, or markets who are perceived with more risk, like Chinese stocks and Bitcoin, they plunged. Chinese stocks are at the lowest levels since April 2020. So yeah, Chinese stocks are way more down than Bitcoin. So we're suffering from Federal Reserve actions telling people, putting fear on the market, that interest rates will go up and the stimulus packages will go down. So that's what's happening.
All right. Fear. You're saying people are replying. The fear is working. It's working. I mean, fear is a powerful emotion. I want to ask though. Some people are simple. I don't worry about the macro stuff, because I know Bitcoin doesn't really worry about the micro stuff. I know traditional finance people, they worship what the Fed might do. Do you have any takes on? There's rumors that the Fed is going to have 5 rate hikes this year. Should we care, Marcel?
Adam, we should not care. They have their hands tied. If they raise interest rates, they break down the whole financial system, because every company that has borrowed money for free for negative interest rates, they're going to have to repay them with interest rates, and they will not be able to do that. So if they raise interest rates above or near the inflation level, let's say the inflation is at 12% and the interest rates go to 6%, he's going to break down every market, including housing in the USA. And if they don't, or they just increase the interest rates from 0 to 2%, which is still a negative interest rate considering inflation is running at above 10%. So inflation is going to continue to be a problem. And we just had retail sales in the US negative. It went down 2% year on year in December, even with negative interest rates. So we have a scenario of stagflation. So no growth and inflation. So Fed has their hands tied. Bitcoiners should not care about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are some people that have Bitcoin. I don't know. I wouldn't call them Bitcoiners. They care. Everyone is following, panicking like a a bunch of sheep, like a bunch of sheep. I do want to bring up one thing that I mean, people are wondering about. You've been in this game for a while. We all have. We remember 2018. I mean, could this just be part of the regular market cycle? I mean, could Bitcoin be down this entire year?
I'm going to say my own opinion. Yes, I think Bitcoin could be down pressured for the next 4 or 5 months. I don't think it's going to happen. But yes, if Federal Reserve continues applying pressure, saying we're going to rise interest rates, markets are going to crash, get out of risky markets, buy our treasuries, buy dollar. That's the safe coin. That's the safe asset. If Federal Reserve continues to spook markets and investors believe that story, so yes, we can have another 5 or 6 months of bear market.
All right, let's go to Alessandro. Is this going to be another 2018? What do you feel about these the macro pressure and Bitcoin? A lot of people say Bitcoin's just like the stock market now. Alessandro, take it away.
Yeah, right. So first of all, as we say in the industry, you can't taper a Ponzi, right? I guess that's the first thing that I have at the top of my mind. Then again, if you look at other metrics, like today, for example, Bitcoin hit an all-time high regarding its correlation to the Nasdaq. So there seems to be a short-term sentiment, right, on markets that is being dragged into Bitcoin coming from equity markets, right? Especially as cost of capital continues to increase, bond yields continue popping up. German bonds finally enter positive territory after having, being in negative territory for more than a year since the pandemic package that basically no shitcoins was just talking about, right? Those $12 trillion. Negative debt globally during the pandemic hit an all-time high of $18 trillion, and now that has come down since the Fed started talking about tightening, right? It came down below the $10 trillion level. So again, this whole short-term talk about the Fed raising rates or whatever is keeping markets fearful. If you ask me at an individual level, every single time this has happened and markets crash or are about to crash, the Fed just comes out with another excuse, right? And they just push forward rate hikes, or they just push further in time. They're tightening for just printing more money, right? For QE. So if you ask me, I just think it's weak hands, right? We're just wiping out weak hands. And if you look at other metrics like, futures open interest and the options market on derivatives Bitcoin market, right? Which have been increasing over the past 4 years, right? There's a lot of leverage traders, right? There's a lot of leverage people that just got in. And so these people that get in at $50,000 or $60,000, whenever prices crash by, 30-40%, they just get scared because their expectations were honestly just Bitcoin is going above 100K in 2021. And I think that most of us got ahead of ourselves. What I'm positive about is that we're all right now talking about rate hikes and the Fed, and there's some kind of fear. So I'm a fucking buyer at these levels again. So I guess my last comment is that independent of price action, this is just a great historical buying opportunity. Like these are the levels at which you should continue adding to your stash. That's just my take.
Well, I agree. It's on sale, and Bitcoin always returns to its all-time high. Now, again, I am one who has not been 100% convinced that we are not in a new 2018 here, that it's just the 4-year cycle again. I mean, if the 4-year cycle is the 4-year cycle, then yeah, the 2022 will be like 2018, and we're gonna be in for some a lot of weak hands bothering me all the time. People being disappointed in what happened the last few days. I got to tell you guys a true story. I am here in Midland, Texas. All right. on my travels across the United States to cities that people don't hear about much. And it was freezing yesterday. And I was walking outside because I go outside every day because I'm not some freak that lives in a basement and scared to go outside like so many people are. And I was walking, walking through a drive-through at like Panera Bread. There were no cars there. And I saw a quarter on the ground. A quarter on the ground. I picked up the quarter. I was so happy to get a free quarter. I showed more emotion when I found a free quarter on the ground. And remember, I'm a millionaire because of Bitcoin. Remember this. People don't believe me. They'll never believe me because I look like a bum. But I am. And I was more emotional finding a quarter on the ground than I was when I came back and Bitcoin was below $40,000. I'm like, yeah, so what? I mean, it's below $40,000. I found the quarter on the ground. So I mean, guys, put it in perspective. I am numb to this stuff, dude. You gotta be zen. This is part of the game. It's just it shouldn't really bother you anymore, but it does. And again, we have to address it on the show because it's news. It's people freak out. And it's tied to macro stuff. People are still in the traditional financial paradigm where they have to worry about the Fed and the Senate. And we'll talk about the Senate hearings talking about Bitcoin mining. I mean, are you guys not aware? I mean, the Bitcoin mining FUD is never going to end. The people, the normies are never going to like Bitcoin mining. So if that makes you sell, then I guess like you shouldn't be holding Bitcoin. So, Evan, you haven't gotten to speak yet. I am going to let you just say anything you want to about the fiat freaks, the macro, the price. Take it away.
Hell yeah. So, Adam, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. It's a great opportunity. I appreciate it. First of all, question for you. Did you turn that quarter into Bitcoin? Because that's a cool 650 Satoshis at least.
That is a great question. I haven't yet. I'm going to, I collect all the money that I find on the ground and then I buy peanuts with it, actually. So it makes me feel nice. My financial head is so freaking weird. Like, I can't, it's like I still try to save money, even though there's like no point anymore. I mean, I'm still frugal, but peanuts are good for you if you're not allergic. But you bring up 25 cents spent on Bitcoin. You are a Lightning Network freak. So we are going to talk about that. People.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
absolutely.
Do that. He's going to tell you all on your freaking phone. He's going to get mobile with you. Before we get into that happy news,
let's talk about the macro environment real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
So first of all, I don't think the Fed is going to raise rates. I think they're pretty much bluffing in this big game of poker. I think that even if the Fed raised rates by 0.25%, 0.5%, it would send the markets into a spiral. At that point, they would have to raise rates, and from there, they've lost all faith. So I just really don't foresee any other outcome for them other than say, okay, markets are down right now, and we're going to kick the can down the road. We still plan to raise rates, but it's going to happen at a later date. So as far as Bitcoin, right now, it's in a really interesting position. I really like to look at the Mayer multiple, which is the price compared to a 200-day moving average. And right now, we're just under 0.8. I think it's 0.79 right now at the current price. So the average Mayer multiple since creation of Bitcoin has been 1.42. So we're well below that rate. I think this is a prime position to buy. I still subscribe to the 4-year market theory where the halving creates this supply shock and that leads to this boom. So, going into this year, I was thinking, okay, looking at previous cycles, it seems like the blow off top and the contraction happens a little later year after year. And I thought with all this, COVID money being pumped into the system, Marcel was saying something like 12 trillion was printed. I thought that would really kick the can down the road going into March, but right now, I don't know. We're sort of in uncharted territory. I personally think that we're going to see unprecedented asset inflation this year, and I think that could potentially help break this cycle entirely. Of course, if you're investing in Bitcoin, you got to know how to not overextend yourself. Like you got to be able to, pay your expenses every month. But other than that, I see the environment right now is an incredible buying opportunity. I personally hope that we sell out, we shake out more we can, so that I could buy more at an even better rate. Because if you understand this technology and what it's going to do to the world, this is just it's bull's paradise right now. Like, this is a great time. The next couple of months are going to be rocky in terms of the price, but it's going to provide an incredible buying opportunity. So, I'm pumped on this.
At the beginning of my show, did I say my saying long-term thinking? Have some long-term thinking, people. There are lots of bad price days in Bitcoin. We should be used to this by now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that part of this world that fiat currency short-term thinking has put the world in. I think it's really made a lot of people have their reptile brains. It's always fight or flight. Oh, what I got to do? I got to make this move. I got to make 20 trades, And, fortunately, we've been blessed with Bitcoin. It allows us to not be in that constant state of fight or flight, right? And, we get to use our brains, the entirety of our brains, not just make moves based on emotion and look at the big picture. So to anyone who is holding right now and is fearful, take a look at the chart and zoom out. Keep hitting that zoom out button. And, I think there's going to be a great opportunity. Hell, since the last cycle, we're up at least 100% still, even after this contraction. And, I personally don't think that this market cycle is over. I think there's still upside. And, I think this long-term, this is still a great opportunity.
Yeah, these freaks aren't bears; they're freaking reptiles. They're using that
reptiles. Yes.
Fight or flight. They're flying. They're dudes. Come on, be civilized human beings here. Be unique beast. Individualism is the accomplishment, and freaking collectivism is the default. And you're defaulting to your freaking reptile brain. Some of you out there. Some of the things I'm seeing, but I've seen it all before. And again, it doesn't really excite me. I like finding quarters on the ground more than worrying about Bitcoin's price dropping. Because I know the 6-digit realm. We're going to see it, baby. I can't predict the exact day. People want specifics in life. They tell me the exact day it's going to be 100,000. Come on, dude. Come on. I'm not a fortune teller here. Hey, by the way, do you pronounce your name Kalutis? How do you pronounce your last name?
Yeah, it's Kalutis, Evan Kalutis. Thanks for asking, Adam. Through grade school, I've had it butchered so many times. So,
Are you of Greek descent? It sounds like a Greek.
Yeah, so I'm Greek American. My dad pretty much came over here to study, and my mom is second generation. Really proud of my heritage, and that's why I lean into the Greek mythology with Zeus. So
that is why I brought it up, and we'll get it. I'm like, that's why you named it Zeus, isn't it?
Yeah.
I connected it all.
I mean, he's such an incredible figure. He's hardcore, is sort of aligned with the original values of the app. It's sort of this hardcore cypherpunk Lightning app. I think we're the absolute best way to take your Lightning node on the go and decide to lean into it. People seem to love the character. I'm going to keep running with it.
Yeah, it's a good looking logo, and you'll get a full chance to describe it. Now, speaking about Zeus, people put him on a pedestal and bowed down to him as an idol, and I don't like idol worshipers at all. I don't like. But my Lord, what you mentioned the Fed? Do people worship that thing like a freaking idol? Now, there's been a report. I don't even know who did the report. What with the stable, the United States isn't exactly ready to do its Fed coin yet, okay? But I'm saying this. You're saying that the Fed has been backed up into a corner. Maybe that it will speed up the process of making a Fed coin so they can do the negative interest rates. That will back them out of the corner, and they will be able to implement negative interest rates if everybody has an account at the Fed. If you no longer, well, maybe you'll still have a private bank account. I don't know how they're going to exactly do it. But I did want to point out that was in the news this week also, that they're studying digital currencies, central bank digital currencies again, and that kind of, that might have freaked some people out too. There's so many excuses out there, So I don't know if you had anything to say about that, Evan, or if you want to talk about the Russia FUD too.
Well, let's talk about CBDCs because I think this is a massive issue that I think Bitcoiners are well aware of. But when I go talk to regular people out in the world, I talk to my sisters about what's coming. They don't really grasp it. They either say, "Oh, you're crazy; it's not coming," but they're telegraphing their move. So the CBDCs are central bank digital currencies. They say this is the digitization of the dollar, despite the dollar actually being well digital right now. Most of the dollars in existence just exist on spreadsheets and databases. The physical dollars don't actually exist. But what this is a power grab. The plan is to get rid of cash. They're going to collapse all the commercial banks into the Federal Reserve. You'll only be able to interact with this money through their web portals and their smartphone applications. And this is going to give them unprecedented surveillance powers and control of your capital. So this means that if you're a dissident, you could be turned off like that. This means that if they want to do a haircut like they did in Cyprus just a few years back and they took a quarter of everyone's savings, they can do that like that. Imagine if they just decided, oh, that there's another pandemic and to provide relief or create the next vaccine, we got to cut everyone's bank savings by 30%. They could do that. They're going to say this is a great tool for collecting taxes and preventing tax evasion, and they're going to just use this indiscriminately. And ultimately the goal is no privacy and complete insight into how we use our money. And I think this is a very dangerous technology. I think that we need to push back as much as we can against this. But I think ultimately when this becomes rolled out and the masses are forced to use it, I think we're going to be ready with open arms, with Bitcoin, with Lightning Network, with payment apps like Zeus. And we're going to begin our shift to a new currency that is not controlled by any single entity, that can't be printed out of thin air, that doesn't have the same surveillance columns. And, I think this is the most important thing anyone could be working on right now. And we got to keep championing it because the alternative is a hellscape, a totalitarian hellscape. And people don't understand how serious the repercussions of this will be.
Yeah, and most people won't realize how serious it is, even when they've chosen to be part of it. Most people will be part of this. And I just wonder if what you guys have said, that the Fed is backed up into a corner and can't lower rates, that this might speed up this process because this will help them get away with much more and continue this game. I say bring it on because I'm already situated great with the Bitcoin. All right. Yep. I mean, that is how you opt out of this. People are like, oh, I don't want to be part of the surveillance state. I don't want to be part of it. It's going to be horrible. And yeah, it is going to be horrible. Yep. Although it's going to be a comfortable dystopia for the 80 percenters. They like getting their free stuff and they like paying their taxes and they like, fitting in and being able to get their latest thing in their jab in their arm or whatever. Okay. I mean, a comfortable dystopia. I mean, we've gotten tastes of that over the last 2 years. Some people are very comfortable living in their basements in this dystopian thing and telling on their neighbors and shaming people for not doing certain things. So, Marcel, your take on central bank digital currencies and the latest news that's come up about them. The United States has a report on it, at least. They're not ready to do it yet, but there's a report out on it.
Okay, Adam. So let me start by telling a story about my mother. She used to love Blockbuster. Why? Because she's retired, so she could get out of the house, talk to someone, discuss about the videos she likes, ask for recommendations and whatever. So when Netflix was launched, I told her, Mom, you have HD quality. You have 3,000 videos at your disposal. You can choose anyone. It's cheaper. It's faster. It's less risky. You don't have to go on the street. And she said, I see that, but I don't really care. I like my Blockbuster. So why did she move out of Blockbuster? Because they went bankrupt. There was no more video store rental in the city where she lives. Otherwise, she would be still doing that. So what I'm saying is that when CBDC it gets implemented, and it will, because of the reasons you just gave, it's going to give more control, more power to the central banks, and that's what every politician and everyone in authority wants, and that's why Satoshi disappeared. So when CBDC gets implemented, and my mom is going to try to buy some random stuff from eBay or AliExpress from China, and the government says, well, we're not friends of China. You can no longer buy products from there. So maybe my mom will call me and say, hey, kiddo, how are you doing? What about that Bitcoin stuff? Can I do payments on AliExpress to buy some stuff that I need to bring to Brazil? So people, regular people, will only abandon the fiat system or whatever, the CBDC, when they're not allowed to use money to buy drugs, to buy alcohol, to buy support their favorite soccer teams or football teams and whatever. So when this happens, and it's a matter of time, they're going to come back to us and ask for a decentralized currency, and we'll be ready with lighting and solutions.
There you go. That's what I like. Very good scenario. Wait. All right, I lost you there for a second. Yeah, you put put it in perspective there, comparing it to your mother's situation and everything. And yeah, dudes, they are going to. I like you bring up the. I'm no fan of Chinese. You can. I'm no fan of the Chinese government, but the Chinese businesses are different. But our government could very well be paranoid and say, no, you can't buy anything from China anymore, and you'd be stuck. It'd be totally true. And another thing, you bring up football. I just wanted to say, I realized something here. All three guests are probably big soccer fans here. Am I correct? We got Brazilian, Venezuelan, Greece. I mean, we got. They care about that. Anyway, I'm a big baseball fan, so I thought I would bring up another sport real quick. All right, let's go down to Venezuela real quick, or up to Toronto real quick. Alessandro, your take on the central bank digital currencies, and also since we're talking about different countries, your take on the Russian FUD that has crept in this week.
Yeah, so my take on CBDCs is that it's going to be just another, whatever you want to call it, layer of surface for central bankers just issue more currency and then just create a different payments rail for global transactions or whatever. We've discussed this on the show previously, Adam, that I do potentially see them trying to incentivize CBDCs by giving like tax just creating some regulations that would give like tax cuts to people or whatever. Like if you pay in CBDC, just like Rio de Janeiro is trying to do with Bitcoin, right? Like if you pay your taxes with Bitcoin, we're going to give you 10% discount or whatever. So if you pay in CBDC, we're going to give you a discount in this or this other thing. The problem is, again, what's the problem is the creator of the money in this case, right? It's going to be the same one. It's going to be the same. They're going to have even more control, to Evan's point, right? On the end user that ultimately ends up using CBDCs. I guess at the top of my mind, a great question that I have going forward with all this CBDC chatter, and let's say like we already have 5 years of CBDCs after they've been launched. Like what is going to be their intention for physical cash? Because it is like an intention of them of like trying to get rid of physical cash and replace it with CBDC. That's part of their discussion. So if you look at the Venezuelan diaspora perspective, so after the Venezuelan government was sanctioned in 2017, what Maduro started doing was he started funneling a pile of US dollars in cash into the Venezuelan economy. And so what you have inside Venezuela right now is over $5 billion in cash. And that's like 90% of how all transactions are being made in Venezuela. So it's a cash full economy. So what's going to happen to Maduro if the Fed comes and eventually says like, look, we no longer support physical cash. Like you can take physical cash to a U.S. bank or a Panamanian bank or whatever, a bank in El Salvador, and they will accept it, but they will just turn your physical cash into digital money, right? In the end, it's the digitalization of everything. So it's a coerced form of money, right? It's enforced. It's an enforced form of money. So they're just going to continue enforcing this to people. And what I do see is that every major central bank in the world will try to be part of this discussion, because in the end, it's a gang of dudes. It's the same gang of dudes, right? They drink booze together on private doors, right? So we will potentially even see the Bank of International Settlements create their own CBDC currency, right? Backed by a handful of fiat currencies. Again, the problem is going to be just more issuance of them, and it's just going to function as another, perhaps more digitalized layer, but I don't expect them to publish, like a GitHub repository or an open API to which, developers globally, like a developer in Brazil, for example, could connect to an API of the Fed and create his own, like dollar app in Brazil, whatever you want. So I don't see that happening. So I just think it's bullshit, man.
All right. Speaking of Brazil, Marcel, did you have your hand up there?
Yeah, I have a question for Alessandro. So in Venezuela, if the physical dollars are not allowed anymore, do you think they will move first to stable coins, for example, or they will jump ship directly to Lightning and Bitcoin?
Exactly. So in the case of countries like Venezuela, where we've been dealing with Bitcoin for more than 10 years already, whatever, for whichever reasons, right? There's many. There's OTCs, right? There's private OTCs in Venezuela and certain parts of the country that have a daily volume that is greater than the Venezuelan Stock Exchange volume. So like there's days that the Venezuelan Stock Exchange would process like barely $5,000 in operations, right? Whereas you would have, OTCs of dudes that handle stable coins and Bitcoin and whatever, just to make, like payments in Colombian pesos by receiving local currency in Venezuela. And then they change that for, Tether or USDC or whatever, and then cash out of that into Peruvian sols or Brazilian reais or whatever, right? These people would move over $300,000 a month. So they could be bigger than the Venezuelan Stock Exchange. So this is to say that, I do expect them to jump into things like stable coins, like mostly the use case for stable coins, and to be frank, in South America, it's all happening on the back end on Binance's platform. And Binance works pretty well in Venezuela because the Venezuelan government has very good relationships with the Chinese Communist Party, right? So I would just foresee, if that were to happen, I would just foresee Binance with an ever increasing use case of grabbing the demand for dollars coming from South American markets like Venezuela, which is the same case in Brazil, right? Like Binance has like over 30% of the volume sometimes, right?
Yeah, the OTC here is huge. It used to be on Bitcoin from Brazilians sending money abroad using Bitcoin, but it shifted to Tether about 2 or 3 years ago, and now it's currently mostly done on Tether for remittances abroad.
All right, dudes. We're going to cover some more of this noise. I want to remind everybody you could ask a question in the super chat. We need only $62 more for me to do a new One Bitcoin show, so keep on going over there or type in BitcoinMeister, whatever. Again, check out the Miami code below, Adam10, if you want to go to and we'll talk about the event a little later on. We got so much to talk about here. And I want to remind everyone, on days like this, Bitcoin conviction always prevails. That's what I've had this entire, since 2013. I didn't let the noise and scary news get in my way. I just held. I had conviction, and it's been very, very good to me, baby. So I want it, but we've got some stuff in the title we haven't covered yet. So we'll go back to Evan. Evan, did you have any thoughts on Russia or the mining hearing?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I didn't watch the mining hearing. Of course, I hear it's just all fudders talking about proof of stake, and oh wow, big surprise that people who stand to benefit by more, Cantillon effect and signage or lobbying the government to push out their competition and proof of work. Like, it's no surprise this shit is going to keep happening. Obviously they're going to keep pushing stuff like XRP and Ethereum, stuff that could be co-opted and maybe even turned into bases for these new CBDCs. I don't know, but regardless, I think Russia is some pretty interesting news in that I just want to say, like, we're going through humanity's information era, and we just got through the first act, right? The biggest companies in the world are in information technology. They're the Googles, the Facebooks, the Netflixes, Apple. And, as the computer and the internet has facilitated like a brand new era of human commerce and interaction. And naturally, Bitcoin is the next phase of that, as we're able to take our, finance into this space, and to do it in a way that no single party is required to be an intermediary. So with Russia, it's really unfortunate what they're going to be doing to their citizenry, because you cannot ban Bitcoin. You cannot really stop it. All you can do is prevent your citizens from accessing it through the traditional rails and traditional channels. And as we're going into this next stage of the information revolution, all you are doing is hurting yourself, you're hurting your citizens, you're hurting your country, and you're risking sending your country into third world status in this new era of this new information era. They're going to push away their citizens who have a lot of Bitcoin, so they're going to be pushing out their wealthy citizens and taxpayers out of their jurisdictions. They're going to be pushing out the mining operations from their country that are, potentially taxable and bringing wealth to their country. And they're going to also be pushing away, potential new entrepreneurs from coming to their country. All they're doing is shooting themselves in the foot to try to gain a little bit of short-term control. The real new first world countries are going to be the ones that are looking forward thinking and saying, okay, this Bitcoin thing is inevitable. We're not going to go and try to either put the kibosh on it. We're not going to go to try to counter it with our own stupid, lipstick on a pig central bank digital currency or cryptocurrency, however they want to frame it. No, we're going to embrace Bitcoin, and we're going to go headfirst into this new information era, and we're in it to win it. So I am, very, very bearish on the Russias of the world. I'm very, very bearish on the countries that are going to be putting the clamps on proof of work, on the countries that are anti-nuclear. I believe Germany just closed down how many of their nuclear plants. Stupid move. And I'm very, very bullish on the forward-thinking countries like El Salvador and whoever is going to join in the ranks to be next. Obviously, it's going to start with the countries who have very little to lose, countries that don't have their own central bank currencies that they can use for deficit financing, of course. But a new era is coming, and the international order is going to be shaken up in the next 100 years.
I want to say, Russia, on the verge of third worldness. Okay, this is a third world type of move, but it's not a shock. We in the West, for some reason, think Russia is still powerful. I mean, what a joke! But how backward this country and this leader, how they are over there. Now, again, some of the things that we're talking about, whether it be Russia making insane rules like this, that the people will be able to get around it, or they'll just leave Russia. The smart ones leave Russia anyway. But or the ones who can afford. I'm not saying they're not smart people stuck there, but they generally try to get the heck out of there. I want to say this about regulation, okay, and regulating Bitcoin mining. You bring up the nuclear and everything. Government regulation, guys. Government regulation boils down to one thing. You're guilty until you're proven innocent. We don't need any regulations, okay? It's all about saying, well, this might turn into a bad thing. Nuclear power might hurt someone. Bitcoin might hurt someone. It's crazy that over the years, we're like a frog in a pot slowly cooking. We've become accustomed to accepting government regulation like it's a normal thing. It is a horrible thing that is totally against the way of America. America is you're innocent until proven guilty. Regulation is all about you are a criminal. Okay, you're guilty. Whatever you get into, we have to regulate so you don't rip anyone off. You're gonna do something bad, so we have to make sure you don't do something bad. It's ridiculous. Alessandro, you wanted to say something? You had your hand up there.
Yeah, I guess just to give my 2 cents regarding the Russian central bank chatter. I think it's pretty much related to what we were already discussing. It's related to CBDCs. So if you look at Russia's example, ever since they were sanctioned by the West, they like their U.S. Treasury holdings dropped from like over $150 billion to below $3 billion today. So all that what they've been doing ever since is just trying to get rid of the usage of dollars, their reliance of the petrodollar system, and they've been very effective at doing that, right? Like the U.S. could continue trying to add pressures via sanctions to Russia, but they've been pretty much living under that reality for the past more than 7 years already. You know what I mean? So like ever since then, Russia has been stockpiling gold. So I think that this thing for Russia mining Bitcoin and mining and whatever is just a similar move to that of China's last year. And I think it's pretty much related to the early stages of them announcing their own CBDC, which could be backed by gold or whatever. But that's just my take on the Russian central bank thing. I think that ultimately it won't matter, right? Like Russian citizens don't want rubles, right? They want Bitcoin, they want euros, they want houses in Switzerland, and they want real assets, right? In the end.
All right.
And then regarding the sorry.
No, please. I didn't mean this.
Yeah, regarding the mining hearing, I just took some notes from a memo that I saw that was like going around, and it's just it's honestly it's stupidity. It just points to this this paper from the Veers, which used to be a Dutch central bank's advisor, right? And so they say that basically the Bitcoin network generates over 30,000 tons of e-waste a year or whatever. But the problem with that is that the paper that they cite to makes an assumption that the average cycle of an ASIC miner, right, like their lifetime is 1.29 years. So the problem with that is that that's false. Because if you look at the Bitcoin's hash rate right now, almost 25% of the hash rate is coming from S9s, which are ASIC miners that were introduced, right, like launched to the market back in 2016. So I would argue that the real lifetime cycle of an ASIC miner is more around like 4 to 5 years, especially with the ever increasing efficiency in this this kind of equipment. Like S19s, you can compare S19s to S9s. Like it's grades, it's at an efficiency level, it's grades above what we used to have for mining equipment. And the other problem is that they claim that issuing a single Bitcoin transaction to the network adds over 1,000 pounds of CO2, right, to the environment. Which is bullshit again, because miners secure the ledger. They're not specifically there to approve transactions, right? Like 90%, like 80 to 90% of miners' interest right now is the reward. It's not network fees. So yeah, just pointing out some facts that have been going around that mining, hearing, whatever. It's just completely misguided. But then again, we have to ask ourselves the question: are regulators credible intellectual source for this kind of conversations, or is it better to just listen to the BitcoinMeister's show, for example?
I think it's better listening to the BitcoinMeister show. Pound that like button. Hey, Radar BTC, Bitcoin, and crypto moedas. That's you. I know that's you. He sent 10 Brazilian reals. He said, Russia, please ban Bitcoin. China did it, and it, quote unquote, worked. Take it away, dude.
Yeah. From this mining perspective, first of all, I really don't care, because when you compare it to fiat currency, which needs armies, which needs country evasions, needs jail for people who don't pay their taxes and stuff, or take away their homes because they didn't pay a fucking tax. So it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. And if you are going to compare apples to apples, orange to orange, you got to see the whole energy wasted for this fiat system. It's not just the banks. It's not just Visa. There's a whole army and system together that uses a lot of energy to keep that in place. If you remove that, a lot of countries will tell the US, okay, thank you, bro. I no longer need you. You're not going to defend me. So why am I going to trade oil in dollars? Why am I going to keep treasures in my reserves if you don't have a big army to defend us when time is needed? So it's not really apples to apples. Bitcoin is the only, or proof of work is the only solution, and Bitcoin is the only one really using it to secure the network. Well, okay, Ethereum it is currently, but they're going to migrate to proof of stake. Thanks God.
Now, I do want to say thank you for those Brazilian real. They have gone down in value to the United States dollar. It's unbelievable. If we have to, at the end, you're going to have to tell us about some more about what's going on down there in lovely Brazil, which I've been to Rio before. It's different. Brazil is definitely a different feel than its neighbors, than Argentina or Uruguay. It's I mean, a different language. We can get into that later. But all right. So and yeah, guys, the Bitcoin mining hearings. I mean, this is so. The government is never going. I mean, it's all a show. All government hearings are a big darn show, but people panic over it. Okay, we've gotten all the bad news out of our the quote unquote bad noise out of the way. So let's talk about some good stuff. We'll talk about that Google thing in a second, but I want to give Evan time to really tell us about this Zeus thing, what it's all about, and the other guys can ask you about questions about it if they have any. So take it away.
Hell yeah. Appreciate the opportunity, Adam. So Zeus is my free and open source Lightning app. Currently, right now, it only supports remote connections. But in this year, we're going to build in a full Lightning node and wallet. But still, today, it is the absolute best way to take your Lightning node on the go. If you got an Umbrel, a Raspberry Pi, a Nodl, any of these pre-built devices for running Lightning on them, Zeus can connect to it. You have a BTC Pay server in the cloud. Zeus can connect to it. And not only can you make payments, receive payments on the go, but you could actually get really granular and control all the properties of your Lightning node. Open your channels, close them, adjust the fees on each one individually. You could even make your transactions on chain if you wish. So I think Zeus is really peerless. I really encourage anyone who is running their own Lightning node to download it, check it out, take Lightning on the go with you. This is where Lightning really shines, in-person payments. You don't want to be holding up, the line at stores making on-chain transactions. And, I think we're going to see Lightning payments increasingly become the norm, especially after seeing stuff like Lightning get onto Cash App. That means we're just one step away from seeing Lightning payments at, Square terminals, which are all over the world now. And check it out. It's on iOS and Android. We've got a major redesign release coming in the coming weeks, version 0.6. I'm going to be dropping the beta for that release right after this show. Really looking forward to that. And we've got amazing features on the way. Our next release is going to have full coin control interfacing with external hardware wallets. We're going to have support for the new Cold Card version 4 with NFC payments. This new release 0.6 also has a tap to pay support. We're really excited about that. And we've got one hell of a roadmap for what we're trying to accomplish in 2022. So, please check out the app, give us feedback, review us in the App Store if you have a chance. Mind you, the new release is not going to be available till early February on the main app stores. But if you're ambitious, come check us out. Join our Telegram, check out our Twitter, download the beta release, give us feedback, and, liberate yourself with a Lightning node. Check it out.
And I linked to all three of these guests below, and I linked to Zeus. Zeus's freaking Twitter feed also, Zeus LN.
Yep.
So follow the Zeus, the whatever it is, the product. Besides following Evan, I'm sure they tweet some of the similar things out there. But it's all linked to below. Panel members, do you have any questions for Evan about his product here? All right.
You're moot.
Yeah, sorry about that. Is it built on LND or like C Lightning?
So that's the beautiful thing. Zeus is built to be Lightning node agnostic. So we tie into LND, we tie into C Lightning through the Spark interface as well as C Lightning REST. We support Eclair. We support LND Hub, which is the backend for Blue Wallet. So if you want to host an interface for your grandma so she doesn't have to manage her channels, you can do that. We're also staying really on top of all the developments that the Rust Lightning LDK team from Spiral are doing. And we have plans to support an upcoming Rust-based, LDK-based node in 2022. So as new enhancements keep coming out to the Lightning Network, as new interfaces for Lightning keep coming out, we plan on supporting them all the way. We have no allegiances. We're not beholden to any single group of Lightning developers. We're just looking to provide the best in-class experience for Lightning users. Admittedly, right now, it's really for power users who have their own node set up and can connect remotely, but we're going to help bridge that gap and make things really simple for people in a couple of different stages. And the plan is to eventually have it so simple that your mom could use it. And, we're looking to be a major player in the space.
That's sick, dude. You're going to have to advise El Salvador's presidency.
Hey, listen, Bukele, if you're listening, hit me up. I would love to chat and help you guys with some of the infrastructure down there. I've advised a little bit for Ibex Mercado, which is one of the merchants from Guatemala and who's also had some success in El Salvador with some merchants down there. And I really believe in the experiment down there. And I am willing to help out however I can to make Bitcoin the world reserve currency and the currency that we transact on every day for all our payments. And I strongly believe that Lightning is a big part of that equation. And I'm looking to do whatever I can to help push it forward.
You in the chat, they say you're in motion. I agree. I was about to say that on my own that you're doing good things there. Zaya Zaza says, Evan, thanks for Zeus. It was the first wallet I could get to connect remotely to my node. Used it ever since. Oh, dude.
Wow, music to my ears. Keep on using that. Give us feedback. We're always looking to make it better. And we do it for the users like you. So thank you very much.
All right, dudes. Remember, speaking of Twitter, guys, follow me on Twitter, TECHBALT. Retweet this show out there. We need to spread the word. I'm really happy that the 20%ers of the space watch this show. But there's some, because of the algorithms and everything, we are not algorithm slaves here. So I don't put in, pictures of naked women or talk about ludicrous Dogecoin and all this other stuff, and to attract people. I just put the most boring headlines out there, the most boring thumbnails, and I want people who think. But there are very few people out there that do think, and so spread the word out there. So some of them that aren't, getting this, find out. But this has been a great show. These are the best freaking guests in the space I bring you. You don't see these combos anywhere, okay? So people want to I want to see you interact with Michael Saylor, Adam. Come on, dude. You've seen the dude a million freaking times What more can you do? I bring you different guys. I have brought you guys up and coming before they were even known. Nick Carter before he was ever known. All these other dudes before they were ever known. So that's what you want. You should watch shows like this. Spread the word. Marcel, did you have any questions? So yeah, Twitter, retweet it, guys. Seriously, and actually click on the links. Don't just like, yeah, and listen comprehension, people. Did you have any questions, Marcel, about Lightning Network? Anything, Zeus stuff?
No, I'm not really an advanced Lightning Network user. I have, I think, Bottle Pay, some wallet that I used for playing games and little stuff. I like how the develop is being done. I see the potential in El Salvador. But for me, I'm more worried about the hard money characteristics of Bitcoin right now. And that's why I try to focus and tell people here in Brazil, their Visa card is working great for now. So what I'm telling them is your currency is devaluating by 30-40% per year. Save yourself, buy hard assets. I don't care if it's a land, productive land, if you're buy cows and milk them, if you're going to buy Bitcoin, if you're going to buy gold, but get out of Brazilian reais, but because that's worth nothing.
Yeah, that is so true. I've been saying the same thing to South Africans for years, that they're years since 2015, that they're in countries that are supposedly up and coming countries. Brazil and South America, Brazil and South Africa are talked about in the same sentences sometimes. Oh yeah, they're growing, they're this, they're that. Their currencies are inflationary, horrible. People should never have been. They should never have been in them in the first place. They should have been in dollars when they could have been. That was better. But these second tier or third tier ones, they're the trickiest ones. When people are like, it's kind of comfortable. I'm used to inflation. Dudes, those are the ones that if you got Bitcoin in 2015 in those countries, oh my God, you're living a freaking good life right now. So there was something else I was going to say. I just, God almighty. Well, we covered all this. Oh yeah. What I was going to say is that you bring up the hard money aspects of Bitcoin. That's something that I love to bring up too. And I am not a Lightning Network expert. And, I don't spend my Bitcoin, but there's room. The thing about Bitcoin, there's so many different ways you can go with this thing. And that is the beauty. We get into all these Twitter battles, but no, Bitcoin doesn't care. So you can spend your Bitcoin. You can make these Lightning Network. People don't have to be experts in Lightning Network to be Bitcoin fans, okay? To be good Bitcoiners or whatever you want to. There's no such thing as a good Bitcoiner. So people say to me, Adam, you don't know about Lightning Network. So I bring on a Lightning Network guest, okay? It's not my interest. It isn't my interest, but I'll bring them on, and we're all doing it. There's so much different ways you can go with this thing. So I'm more like Marcel in terms of what I think about. I love the 21 million cap. I mean, my God, that it's so simplistic, but it is something that is so missing from this world. Reliability of financial systems. I mean, they're constantly changing, but the rules of Bitcoin don't change. That's something that I love, and it's totally different than thinking about spending your Bitcoin. But there's just so many different ways you can go with it. That's beautiful in Bitcoin. Now talking about spending Bitcoin and positive things. We'll start with Marcel. What's your take on this Google News? They might have a Google card where you can have cryptocurrency on it.
Whenever I see some news involving Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or whoever, I always downgrade it by 80% of what the headline is saying. Because those companies, why somebody creates a company? To make profits. How do you make profits giving open source wallets for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to everyone? You don't. What you want to do is create your NFT market, create your own shitcoin, and force the users to transact using your shitcoin or the government shitcoin and your friend of the government. But they're not here to help us. They're not here to give people free choice of using outside currency from the fiat system. Those companies are here to make a buck, to profit. So don't expect Amazon or Google or Microsoft to be the one pushing for decentralization. That's not what they want. Just the opposite.
I like your point about discounting the good news by 80%. It's a good, because some of these things are totally blown out of proportion and they never end up happening. And 80% is a good number to pick. Pound that freaking like button, thinking of the 80%ers out there. So, I mean, yeah, that's a good. If you see good news, discount it by 80%. And if it ends up being as good as they say, then that's good. It's a bonus. Hey, yeah, again, yeah, Google's got their own priorities, but hey, they're welcome, and no one can stop them from doing anything, from holding Bitcoin. I hope they do buy Bitcoin, because you know what? I bought Bitcoin a long time before they did, and I've been telling people to do the same darn thing. Evan or Alessandro, your take on Google?
Yeah, sure thing. So the news is that Google is going to make it so that cards available in Google Pay or whatever app they have there can hold cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. So yeah, as Marcel had some great points. There's always room for these companies to go astray and either start propping up cryptocurrencies that are really detrimental to everyone or making their own. But generally speaking, I'd say this is generally good news. Any integration with Bitcoin into their platforms is positive. I know Marcel says no. I would say that with a caveat, okay? If they allow users to interact with Bitcoin in a way that is non-custodial and that you could hold your own keys, I think it is incredible. But if they're going to be creating more walled gardens, implementing surveillance, these are all things we need to be conscious of. I think generally we're inching in the right direction. I think that a lot of these headlines come out because Bitcoin is just the hot thing, and that when people get associated with it in whichever way, even if it is speculative, it comes out as good press or something that people will pay attention to. So you got to keep that in mind. But, I think we're generally heading in the right direction. It just shows how much momentum we have. I remember back in the day when you couldn't even get a Bitcoin app on the Apple iOS store. And, now we've got countless apps on there. So we're heading in the right direction. But, anytime you're dealing with these tech giants, you got to, approach it with a grain of salt and be cautious. That's why with Zeus, we are not only dependent on Apple or Google. You can go and sideload the app through our website, through GitHub, and we even allow people to compile the app themselves through the F-Droid platform. They build it themselves and distribute it. That's a completely free and open source Android app store. So yeah, we got to be careful about these gatekeepers. More than anything, they want more money and more control. But Bitcoin is an inevitability in a lot of ways, I believe. And, while they might go roundabout ways and implement all this garbage, maybe alternate cryptocurrencies, their own currencies, at the end of the day, they're going to have to end up at Bitcoin because it's just going to take the world over like a tidal wave.
Okay, Marcel, you were shaking your head, or Evan saying that you were shaking. Did you want to say something?
Bitcoin was created to be a fully independent financial system. We don't need those Google Pays and whatever and payment gateways and ATMs for Bitcoin to work. It already works. Go to El Salvador, check it out, how Lightning Network payments on a day-to-day basis work. It already works for me for saving my money from Brazilian government and the valuation of Brazilian currency. Bitcoin already works. We don't need Google Pays and Apple and Amazon or whatever.
All right, Alessandra, you chime in on this now. Google, and you bring up El Salvador too if you want to. The news that's coming out of there, you had something to say about that actually. But a lot on your plate there. Take it away, Alessandra.
Yeah, right. So I don't remember how long it was ago that we saw this news of Google partnering with Hedera Hashgraph, and I was like, what? I think I hadn't even heard about the cryptocurrency before that news. So I guess that this is just to say that I think I even read that Google could potentially be partnering with Coinbase to do this card thing initially in its initial stages or whatever. So they just want a cut of the cake, they want to try to get in. The problem is, again, I think it's mostly going to be, you know, this multi-coin service attached to a payment services provider or another company. And I don't think that the initial stage of it is going to be Google developing its own thing, but eventually they will all end up, you know, connecting to whichever network, including Bitcoins, because they're open and anyone can start, you know, getting connected to them and develop their own thing. That said, I just think it's the natural trend of the ever expanding universe of Bitcoin eating the rest of the world, right? So, be it Google, Amazon, or whatever, be the Fed, be it El Salvador's government, right? It's the tendency of Bitcoin becoming the predominant monetary, you know, open network of the world. And so it's just a natural trend of itself grabbing more, you know, users and transactions to process. So I would just, you know, whenever that happens, I tend to have an approach just like Marcel's, like just discount the hype and just see it as something that over the medium and long term will, you know, incentivize the users, at least some users, to learn more, right? And then eventually, you know, potentially operate by themselves, you know, without the need of any other party to transact within the network. So whatever. I just think it's just another service from the legacy financial system that is just getting attached to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is achieving what it's meant to do. We'll just continue seeing this happen going forward with many other companies globally.
All right, so now we've reached the point in the show where we're going to talk about things the news that each guest wants to talk about and what they're doing, anything that was left out. But Alessandro, you brought up to me over Twitter, El Salvador's government is looking to provide Bitcoin-backed loans to small and mid-sized businesses. Did you have anything to say about that? Unmute.
Yeah. So there's this small government body in El Salvador that is called CONAMIPE. Basically, they provide like loans to small and mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs in El Salvador. And so I jumped into a discussion with the president of that institution of El Salvador and this other politician from El Salvador that they hosted this like Facebook Live discussion about it. So potentially what will be happening is eventually people like Salvadorians, right? They will be able to deposit Bitcoins within the addresses of this entity, and they will receive, you know, like a payment either in wire transfer or stable coins. But I guess that the interesting thing is that El Salvador's government is going to start financing the initial stages of that. So it's going to be El Salvador's government depositing Bitcoin on behalf of this government entity, and then this government entity will use those Bitcoin to issue loans without selling the government's Bitcoin to finance part of those Bitcoin and give money to small size and mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. I think that's interesting.
It is interesting. I'm wondering, you know, we say to discount certain news 80%. You know, there's a lot coming out of El Salvador. I've never been to El Salvador. You're much more familiar with it than I am. I mean, will they be able to carry all of this out? I mean, could the government be overthrown? Could it just all go down the drain like that? Things change very fast south of the border of the United States. I mean, governments come and go in some of these countries. Things aren't as stable as they are here. What's your take? I mean, I don't want to put a lot of, I'm excited that the president is going to actually be in the Miami Bitcoin conference. Maybe we'll be able to ask us some questions. I think that's very bold of him, but how much of this is just talk and brashness? And I don't like putting people on pedestals, and I don't like, so there's times that I'm worried that too many Bitcoiners put a lot into this, a lot of meaning into what's going on into El Salvador. And I don't want people to lose faith in Bitcoin because something suddenly goes wrong in El Salvador.
Yeah, no, look, honestly, at a broad level, I would agree with you. I agree with you. And I went to LabitConf, checked out, you know, what was happening in El Salvador with there's other bunch of Bitcoiners, especially from South America. I guess that look, I see it this way: if Bitcoin is not able to, with this existing government, right, to create its own roots, right, in El Salvador for at least 5 years because of this, tendency of being volatile, countries and governments get overthrown. To your point, Adam, I think it's going to be, it could affect the what's been developed so far within the country, right? Because you could just see another government coming and just overrule that legislation of Bitcoin becoming legal tender, and then Bitcoin is not legal tender anymore in El Salvador. I think that, well, that said, that dude, Bukele, when you ask Salvadorians, right, like, the past 40 years of the country were pretty much, like communist, almost like dictatorships, right? Like only two parties. This dude is like from a singular new party that he built himself or whatever. So a president of El Salvador can't be reelected. He's trying to change that so that he can be reelected, so that he can continue doing his own things, for at least 10 years. If that were to happen, then, a pro-Bitcoin government for 5 to 10 years in El Salvador, I think it will prove to be highly valuable over the medium and long term for the country. If that's not the case and he gets thrown out, then I think it might have complications depending on who else gets into office in El Salvador. But that said, look, there's other important and I think very relevant developments in El Salvador already, which is, their national wallet has already more than 4 million users. Of course, there's a privacy discussion and concerns around that for the end user, et cetera, if the government is monitoring them or whatever. But if you try to compare apples, to Marcel's point, if you look at other South American developments around the cryptocurrency industry, you have like the biggest Latin American cryptocurrency exchange is Mercado Bitcoin, right? So it's a Brazilian exchange, which has barely 3 million, almost like 3 million users, or perhaps a little over it. But it's been around since 2013. You know what I mean? Like it's 9 years, 3 million users, but El Salvador's government, right, with a national Bitcoin wallet in a couple of months, managed to pass that, right? So I think there's it has had some achievements. There is volatility, and it's going to be a bumpy road for El Salvador. I think this movement of creating this speculative attack of, sovereign Bitcoin bonds to market buy $500 million in Bitcoin or whatever, just to get liquidity and outside of the existing, a petrodollar system and the World Bank and the IMF and et cetera. I think that's interesting. And I think other governments will follow. That said, I don't think we need to dive into the Bitcoin City discussion that they want to use 500 million. I think it's just too much. It's too much for me over the short term. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we got to go to, I was going to go to Evan, but let's go to Marcel because you're in South America. What's your take on El Salvador? You're smiling at the Bitcoin City thing also.
Yeah, I don't think Bitcoin City is needed right now. We need to show the world that Bitcoin works not just as a day-to-day payment system, but for companies, for people, for countries to use it as global reserves. So that's what my main message or focus would be. As for Brazil, you're going to hear a lot of research and whatever saying that 20% of the population or 30% of the population is using cryptocurrencies or whatever. But that's really not true. As Alessandro said, Mercado Bitcoin, the largest exchange, only has 3 million users, and that has been over 10 years, almost 9 years. And most of these guys either bought Bitcoin at the top in 2017 and split after it went down, or they didn't buy via exchange. They entered on some Bitcoin Ponzi scam or whatever, so they didn't ever hold the Bitcoins in their wallets. So disregard those big numbers like 20%, 30% of the Brazilian population uses crypto. That's not true. And as I said before, the first step for them will not be Bitcoin. If we go into that spiral here of inflation of 100% or over, such as Argentina is happening, or some crazy totalitarian regime takes the power, they will flight their move to what they're most comfortable, and they're comfortable holding dollars and euros, and that's a good thing because at least they're moving to a harder money. But in time, they will find out that this harder money also holds a large inflation, currently at 10%, then tomorrow is 20%, then the day after tomorrow is 40%, and they'll be really quick to realize, I got scammed again. I need to find some real asset to protect my money. Then they will see the importance of this decentralization. It's gradual. When I entered cryptocurrencies, I thought that that Litecoin was faster and better than Bitcoin. I thought that maybe Roger Ver had a smart idea creating Bitcoin Cash. We all went to those steps. We all lost money. We all misunderstood Bitcoin in the beginning. It takes time, so it's a process. It's not going to be from night to day.
All right. I like that perspective right there. I think Evan just dropped off. His internet just dropped. He might be back. We'll see about that. But let's let me ask you a question, Marcel. I'm talking about this. The president of Miami, president of El Salvador is going to be at the Bitcoin conference April 6th to 9th, Bitcoin Magazine in Miami Beach. Will you be there?
I think there's a good chance, but not sure right now because I bought the tickets for the Bitcoin conference in San Francisco 2 years ago. Then this whole pandemic stuff happened, but I still have the hotel credits, the airline credits, so everything is paid for. I just need to change the date. So there's a good possibility.
Yeah, wow, that was crazy when that started. I know what you're talking about, but I reused all my stuff for last year's one. But again, the restrictions of coming into the United States is very difficult, and I wish we would let everybody come back in, and everybody would let everybody come back in again. I mean, I've been stuck in the United States, which has been the best place to be, quote unquote, stuck in, because we got 50 different states, a lot of different things going on. Let's go north of the border here to Alessandro. Tell us about Lenin. What's up? And are you going to go to the Bitcoin conference in Miami in April?
Yeah, hell yeah, I'm going. I'm actually going with my colleagues at Lenin. Yeah, I think that the most relevant thing that is happening right now at Lenin that most people want to, discuss about is this Bitcoin mortgage product that we recently introduced. So the world's first Bitcoin-backed mortgage loan. So essentially, initially for Canadian residents and then some U.S. residents of certain states, we'll be able to issue them a mortgage, right, backed by their Bitcoin. So I think that the most interesting thing to mention around why we built this product, it's that it's actually something that some of our clients were already doing. Like we were already providing Bitcoin-backed loans, and so you would give us your Bitcoin, we would take them as collateral, and then we would issue you either a wire transfer or a payment in USDC stablecoin, right? And so some of our clients were using the proceeds of those loans to buy a house, right? To buy real estate. So eventually, we just realized that building the structures at Lenin that would enable us to take real estate as collateral or Bitcoin as collateral for people to buy real estate would just allow for a more, less volatile, right, product over the medium and long term of that loan. So right now, our rates on the Bitcoin mortgages are not as low as like a traditional mortgage in the US, because this lending companies, these mortgage institutions, from like a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or whatever from the U.S., they're pretty much backed by the government, so they have exposure to the artificial low interest rates, and so that's why you get a 3.5-year rate on a 30-year, 50-year mortgage in the U.S. Right? And in our case, it's initially going to be 3-year term, and the initial rates that are attached to the Bitcoin mortgage are around 7.9% APR, right? So it's not as cheap as a traditional mortgage, but that said, like, we have over $1 billion on the Bitcoin mortgage waitlist already, and so it's amazing. We just see it, and this is my last take on it. We just see it as another great development from the industry, coming from the industry, for how Bitcoin will be able to monetize another market, right? Which is the real estate market, which is a $300 trillion global market, right? So it's, some people will not sell their main property, to live under the hood of their car or under their car just to buy Bitcoin. Some will, whatever, right? There's everybody in the Bitcoin space. But it's an interesting way for people to be able to finance part of their real estate holdings to buy more Bitcoin, or vice versa, to use their Bitcoin holdings to buy some shares.
Very innovative. I give you all the credit in the world. Marcel's got to go real quick, so you give your closing words, Marcel.
Well, I'm going to have to remind the audience about the importance of DCA. It's not about the best method to buy Bitcoin cheap, because this does not exist, but it's the best method to avoid the negative impact, psychological impact of someone who is not used or who did not understand Bitcoin, and he buys everything at once and it goes down 30%, then he's going to sell. So by doing DCA, by buying every 15 days or every month, it's easier for the general population to shift from the fiat currency to Bitcoin. So there are a lot of advantages on DCA. It's not about buying cheap Bitcoins. It's about not selling when it's down 30% because of the volatility, because of we are in the early stages of adoption. Less than 4% of the global population uses Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis or as an investment tool. So for now, volatility is large. So DCA, buy every month, forget the price.
Good advice. And also buy when there's blood in the street, baby. Few people do that. Few people buy on days like this. It's the weak hands that are selling. Buy when there's blood in the darn street. All right, you get the final word, Alessandro. Oh yeah, all of these guys are linked to below. Please check them all out. Please check that all their things, their Twitters. They'll tell you where they're going to be and everything. It's always, seriously, they'll give all their websites, all that good stuff there. Take it away, Alessandro. You got the final word.
Yeah, so I guess that one last thing that I would like to bring into the show is that this whole big issue debt to buy more Bitcoin trend that Michael Saylor started. It just reminds me a lot, honestly, Adam, of my time in Venezuela. Whenever inflation started becoming rampant inflation, right, high inflation, even before hyperinflation. People, even at a retail level, and this was people, the government, businesses, whoever, right, would go to banks to issue a loan in the local currency, so in bolivars, just to buy dollars, and then gradually sell those dollars as the bolivar depreciated, and essentially what you be net positive dollars at the end of your loan's term. And so it's almost like a free way of getting money, and it was a huge way for the businesses, the government, and even banks in Venezuela to finance their operations, right? Like they were barely making money; they were just financing themselves with this trend. So what I foresee over the next 3 to 5, even 10 years in the U.S. and the developed world is the same thing happening, but instead of bolivars and dollars, it's going to be loans in fiat, in main world countries' fiat currencies, the dollar, the euro, whatever. But it's just going to be to buy more Bitcoin, and I think it will be an ever increasing trend. Right now, there's only one dude in the world doing it at that high level, but I think he's not going to be the last one. And yeah.
Yeah, Michael Saylor has definitely changed the Bitcoin community in many ways. Someone asked me why I didn't have Michael Saylor on before he was famous, before he was well known. Dudes, when it was announced in August and September of 2020 that MicroStrategy was buying Bitcoin, I said right then and there that this was the biggest news of the freaking year. So that was my early way of getting in on all this. I mean, I identified this so early. Who could find Michael? No one could get Michael Saylor on before he was famous. No one knew it was about to happen. But once that darn thing happened, I'm telling you, it shook the world, and we never saw the freaking 4-digit realm again. All right, dudes, that is it. Alessandro, everybody, thank you for being on today. They are all linked to below. Lots of great positive stuff going on in the space. Don't get distracted by all the noise. Shabbat shalom, everybody. We'll be back next Friday. Maybe I think Tone Vase is going to be on next Friday. Who knows? Tone is a very busy man, but he's been meaning on being on very soon. I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, Disrupt Meister. Check out all the links below. Follow me on Twitter at TECHBALT. Again, everybody have a beautiful weekend. Thank you again, guests. And again, Shabbat shalom. See you later. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you. All right. Let me